they're saying, hey, you didn't pay. And you're like, okay, but I didn't know if I was paying the right person. I didn't know if they were going towards the right things. I didn't know if you still held the promissory note that I needed to pay. All right. So last time we spoke, we actually mentioned that the first thing you should do is respond to the complaint. And a lot of it is, how do you do that? And I know it's overwhelming for a lot of people. And so we're going to talk about that. And first and foremost, I'm going to put my caveat out there. I am not an attorney. Okay. I'm not an attorney. I am just a real estate agent, and I do help people out, and I work with many attorneys. We have them on retainer. So if you would like to speak with one that actually focuses on foreclosures, please get a hold of me, because the biggest mistake a lot of people do is they hire just anybody, any attorney, and just any attorney isn't going to do. You're going to need one that focuses on what's happening right now. And there's a lot that people don't know. So I said, respond to the Lis Pendens as your first thing to do, right? Or the complaint. And I guess we should define what is Lis Pendens. And I guess that's Latin for suit pending, Lis Pendens. And basically what that is it's a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against the title or a property. And it basically puts a lien on it so that you can't sell or you can't do anything. And a Lis Pendens happens in a lot of different situations. Anytime you're putting a lawsuit against a title or a house, that's what it is. So people do it in specific performance. So say you're the buyer and you get all the way to the end, and then 3 days before closing, the seller decides, I don't feel like selling. And you can sue them for specific performance, meaning, hey, you agreed to the contract as it was written, and now we're 3 days before, and now I expect you to perform to your duties that you said you'd do. And that Lis Pendens would be that civil lawsuit. So there would be a Lis Pendens against it. In foreclosures, what happens is, you go 1, 2, 3 months without paying, usually 3 months. And on that third month, then they send you this nasty letter, and then they open up a court case with you, because in Florida, and I'm talking about judicial states because we are in Florida here. And in Florida, we are a judicial state, meaning that they take it to the courts and they put a suit against you, right? And it's called a Lis Pendens, and you have 20 days to respond. Otherwise, you get what's called streamlined, and it is what it sounds like. You're basically getting foreclosed on quickly. And rather than it taking 6, 9 months, a year plus, depending, if you got a lawyer, you could draw this out for years and years and years. So get a good attorney, make sure they know what they're doing regardless. But the very first thing you should do is put them on hold. They're making you respond to all this stuff. They're getting the courts involved. So what are you going to do? This is what I suggest. Okay, this is a letter. I cannot give you this letter. I am not authorized to write a letter for you. I am not your representation. If you want me to sell your house, I'd love to sell your house. I'd love to help you out. And we can talk about the reason why I get more money for people than most people, because most people that work with foreclosures, you're working in a realm of wholesaling. You got to get rid of this property as fast as possible. What I try to do is I try to get people on board before we get to the point of needing to wholesale, because it's going to cost the person money. And ultimately, if they had a bunch of money, they would have been paying their bills in the first place, right? Okay, so we're going to take a look at this. This is a letter. I'm not going to read everything about it. You can read it. I want to point out a few things right here where it says the loan number. That's going to be really important. You can easily find that on your loan documents. You're going to be able to find it on the courthouse, which I showed you guys how to look, at least in Orange County, how to look and look at your complaint that's online, right? There is in your note, if they have the note available, if they added that to the file, to the court filings, which they should have. If they did not, then they are legally foreclosing on you, okay? Because then a lot of times they don't have the note. But there is potentially a MERS number. A MERS number will appear on probably, I think it's about 85% of loans. And what that means is, let's break it down. It's the mortgage electronic registration service. So it basically keeps track of all the mortgages and what they're doing and when they're being sold off. What was happening was, you get a loan through one company, they don't want to keep it in portfolio. They're going to sell it off so they can make money off of it, so they can get more money to loan, because they get 10 times the amount of actual liquid cash they have to be able to loan on from the Federal Reserve. So what they want is they want to sell it off. Well, how are you going to keep track of all these notes, these promissory notes, promising that I will pay this note in order to receive this title in the end? And so they needed a service that kept track of them, right? Well, this is very important actually, because as we find out, and you can read all this stuff, and I'd be happy to talk with people about this, and I can't necessarily send you the letter, but we can talk about it. We can get with my attorneys, and my attorneys can send you this, and they can talk to you about it. This goes through basically everything that's happening, the damages and costs that are incurred by the lending outfit, right? The person that's actually taking you to court that set up the Lis Pendens. This is the part that I want to talk about here, because this is a statement of the reason that the borrower believes that the account may be in error, meaning that they illegally provided a Lis Pendens. And I think this is really important, because you can read through this, but we believe that we've been making payments to the wrong person. And the reason we do that initially is because if you have a MERS, then a lot of times those got sold off to stock companies, right? Or to big companies that are going to put real estate in their portfolio because they offer all sorts of things. And then people buy stocks, and those notes were turned into stocks, so they can't be turned back. So when you follow that electronic pattern of where these mortgages went, a lot of times they're illegally disappearing, and so you're getting foreclosed on illegally. So the first thing to do is to bring all this stuff to their attention. We're going to need loan history. We're going to need the actual original title. We're going to need the chain of custody of that title, or at least the note of the mortgage of where it went, right? Who bought it, where it happened. And all this is designed to make them have to answer for theirs, right? So they're saying, hey, you didn't pay. And you're like, okay, but I didn't know if I was paying the right person. I didn't know if they were going towards the right things. I didn't know if you still held the promissory note that I needed to pay, right? Because they're selling those off so they can make more money. And all these questions get sent in to the bank attorney. And so there's about 15 different departments at a lot of these banking outfits. And one section is the foreclosure section, or the attorney section. And they're not talking with everybody else. So when you reinstate your loan, it's way over here. And these people aren't talking with the attorneys over here. So as you're going through this foreclosure and whatnot, you're probably trying to reinstate your loan, and you're talking to this person over here, but these attorneys are still foreclosing on you, right? And so what you're doing with this letter is saying, hey, hang tight. You need to answer all these questions, provide all this information. You have 60 days to do it, as we read in the letter, and we didn't read it, but it does say you basically have 60 days to show the chain of custody was proper, that it wasn't sold off, that it wasn't broken down, and that it remains a note. So it's actually the best way to buy more time. So if you can get this in, not only are you not going to be streamlined within the 20 days, you are actually going to make them answer. And what you have to do with this is you have to send this to them, but you also have to provide something to the courts that showed that you responded to the complaint, which is something you're going to have to respond to, is the complaint, but also that you sent a letter for the Lis Pendens, which is the suit pending, right? So you are going to have to write a letter. And my suggestion would be, as soon as you find out you're foreclosing, you find an attorney that is going to buy you more time. Because ultimately, time is what destroys most people and most things. And that is what we want to buy the most of right now. Time is the one thing we can't have more of, right? Ever. I mean, ever. You can never take it back. You can never trade it. It's something that either gets taken up, used, or given away, but you don't get more of it. So our most valuable asset is time, and that's what we're buying by responding to these letters. You're going to respond to the lender's attorneys, not just the reinstatement or the deferment or whatever section you're talking to at the bank, you're going to talk to both those sections. You're going to try to reinstate your loan. You're going to try, but in the meantime, you're going to put the courts on hold and let the courts on notice that, hey, I am responding to this stuff. I think the bank's doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. I'd like for them to account for that. And they are going to have to answer. So first thing you're going to do, you get those letters in the mail and you are going to respond to the Lis Pendens, to the attorneys at the bank, and respond to the complaint that's been filed by whatever county you're in. If you're in Orlando, you're in Orange County. Okay. All those things, you kind of almost should have a confidant, somebody to talk all these things through so that you're on the right path. Oftentimes that's the attorney, right? But more often than not, the people that are calling you are the people like me that are cold calling people that are trying to help them. Sometimes it's not always people trying to help you. Sometimes it's where people are cold calling you. They're trying to take advantage of you, trying to sell your house, all that stuff. And so it's hard to figure out who's on your side and who's not. Eventually, you're going to have to take the advice of someone like myself and either speak to their attorneys or do what they suggest, because we've been through this stuff. I know more about this stuff. I can negotiate with the banks for you if you want. If you give me power of attorney to negotiate with the banks for you, there's a lot that I can do to get things caught up. And banks aren't used to talking with somebody that understands the process. So that's the other advantage you have. There might be a time where I tell you it's time to sell, and it happens a lot in foreclosures because most people want to stay in their homes, but what they don't realize is the longer they stay in their home, the more certainty you are of giving it up to the bank and losing all equity and losing everything, because the bank just wants to get it to the end of the road so that they can auction it. They just want to be done with it. They don't want to reinstate most of the time. There are cases for everybody, and we do get loans reinstated and we get deferments placed at the end, and my lawyers, I should say, get people homes for free sometimes. If the bank's doing illegal stuff and we catch them on it, it's your gain. Now, what does that cost you? It costs you the price of a lawyer, of an attorney that knows what they're doing. And in many of those cases, if you pay the initial part and they look through your case and they think there's something there, they'll let you know because they want to take it to the end too. At that point, your attorney will. And in order to sue or counter-sue the bank, it's going to cost a lot of money. Okay. It's going to cost a lot of money. And if that's something you're interested in, you should research it. You should talk to your attorney because you can get your house for free as well. So with that being said, the most important thing is to respond to the Lis Pendens, to the bank's attorney, and then respond to the court, to the complaint through the court system. With that being said, we'll come out with step 2 and 3. There's actually a lot to this process, but ultimately you need to understand that your most valuable asset is time, and time is what we're trying to buy. And it's also what's going to get you the most for your house in the end if you have to sell. So we need to understand and use the time available. And that's what I'm willing to offer for help. So with that being said, I'll catch you on the next video, but watch some of these other videos and let me know what you think.